Hello guys, what is going on? So I figured I'd knock out my final thoughts or conclusion video on the Gen 4, specific to the Gen 4 Hinderer XM-18 3.5 inch. I thought I'd just, while I'm on a video spree, I may as well get this one done. I've had this knife for a while now. Probably, I don't know, 5 months, I want to say. Long time. For me, it's a long time. So in that long or short period of time, depending on how old you are, I put this knife through hell. So I'm going to fold this guy up, leave him here, and then talk about this. So this is the first Hinderer I ever bought. As soon as I got it, something resonated, with me, and I loved it. Now, I've recently started to love it more than I did when I first got it, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I beat the fuck out of this knife to an unusual extent. In fact, I took my good old mallet here, and I banged this guy into a couple of 2x4s until they were nothing but splinters. Pretty big splinters, but splinters nonetheless. I don't have time to make micro splinters out of 2x4s. So the knife, I'll just tell you what happened. Got a little up and down, got a little lock slip. It has been fixed. I didn't send it to Rick. He's only a half hour away. I very well could have. But what I did, I took the knife apart, put a little bit more locked bar pressure on it, and that seemed to fix it up quite nicely. You guys can see it's not really even that late of a lock, or that late of a lockup on this guy. And this other one I got this guy from Steve. Here, let me get it straight for you. So this is a Gen 4 Fatty Wharncliffe, and it's in the Battle Worn finish. I don't remember what the finish is called. This one I just got, so I haven't used it too much. I've carried it a couple times, and I have to say I really like it. I'm usually not a straight edge kind of guy. More ways than one. More ways than one on that one. But so it's funny because it's in Big Book Blue. I was joking around with a couple of the guys in the chat that it's both of them are appropriate colors for me. Pretty much I was thinking about this knife on my way to work today, and I was thinking what sentence would summarize this knife entirely? And it's really pretty simple. I could honestly end the review with this sentence. It's a knife you pick up and you don't think about. You don't have to think about it. Like, I don't know if you guys do this. Maybe I'm a psycho, but I pick up my military. I'm ready to cut something, and I'm like, wait, is this the right knife for it? I don't know. Maybe I'm a psychopath, but I'm always like, maybe this is not the best knife I own for that job. And I'm like, 25 minutes away from home. It's like, make the damn cut already. But with this, I whip it out, and I never seem to hesitate before making the cut. I don't know what it is. I have that with the SOCOM, and really just the SOCOM, the Strider, and the XM-18. Let's do a quick size comparison. Here it is against the Strider SNG. Here it is against a Benchmade Anthem. And then we'll get into the bigger knives. So there it is against a Microtech SOCOM. Spyderco Military that you just saw. And do this. Do the nums on. Well, that's not a common knife, that's dumb. We'll do a Bic lighter and a Sharpie. Look at that. There you go. You should have at least one of those in your house, I would think. So I'm going to go with that as my final size comparison. Yeah, so let's see here. So getting into fit and finish, and this is something that I might get shit on for, but fit and finish is leagues above Strider, even their new stuff. I've only owned new Striders, the M Striders I'm talking about. So it's these guys. Pivot's all oily. I'm trying to bust this guy open. Yeah, it's leagues above that. I would say the finish is above CRK, and I'd say the fit is a bit below CRK. So for those of you guys that own, 21s, 25s, Ons, it's really not a knife that can be compared to anything Spyderco makes, and I'll get into that now. It's actually, I take that back. I'm talking strictly build quality. It can't be compared to anything Spyderco, Benchmade. I mean, like, you put the Anthem next to it, and this knife feels flimsy in comparison. It's just sort of a no contest kind of situation. But where was I going with that? So much like a Para 2, or say a Benchmade Griptilian, I'm trying to think of some more knives that fall into this category. This knife isn't really exceptional at anything. It doesn't really do any one thing that well. What it does super well, and why it's been a consistently sought after design for over a decade, is it does everything good. It does a good job at doing just about everything. So for those of you that saw my rope cut test, it didn't exceed at cutting rope. But this knife is biased towards durability. I think it's pretty apparent looking at the knife, or once you get it in hand at least. It's a stout blade. The fatty is even more so. XM-18 blade stock, obviously it's an XM-18. And then this guy has XM-24 blade stock, being a fatty. This one's action is not as good. And I have like a little thing at the end that I just want to touch on as to why I'm even still doing this video. Because we're now on the Gen 6, so it doesn't really make a whole bunch of sense for me to be doing a video exclusively on the Gen 4. So I'm going to talk about why at the end. So if you want to stick around for that long, by all means do it. Yeah, so super beefy. Upon looking closer at the knife, you'll notice that it is in fact exactly as I described it earlier. It's biased towards durability. So that tip is not meant to pierce exceptionally well. The grind is not meant to slice exceptionally well. It's not meant to be a lightweight, super, SOG Flash 1, what else? I mean, you know what I'm talking about. It's not a Para 3 lightweight. This thing is through and through consistently meant to take a beat. Like, it just is. It's one of the most consistent, tough beater knives I've ever seen. And where a lot of people fall short is here. So you look at, and Cold Steel does this, as a matter of fact. So you look at a knife like this, it's got a big old pivot screw, right? You think it's a huge pivot under there. Well, this one, I broke it apart in my last video, is not a huge pivot. It's a small little pivot with a big pivot screw. Now, I can't get mad at a knife that costs $150 for not having a pivot screw that's made in-house like this one is. So when you flip it around, you see this. It looks almost like, here, let me get my pointer. It almost looks like a tit, like a boob, if you will. And I'm gonna point some stuff out real quick. If I can get my pointer open. Here we go. So you got your boob, or whatever you fucking call it, right here, and then you got a nipple. That nipple is actually that screw right here. And the cool thing about it is it goes all the way to the other side. Not only does that middle section go all the way to the other side, this outer boob or tit goes all the way to the G10 side. So really, really, really tough stuff. You can pry with this. The external stop pins help a lot. This is actually not a stop pin. I know some people are gonna get confused there. It's meant to rest against the flipper to keep the knife or the edge from smacking into all of these standoffs. It does have Chicago screws. If you don't know what that is, let's see. Pretty much what it is it's getting a, let's see here, what size is it? I'm just gonna pop one out just to demonstrate, because I like to visually look at things. So what you're looking at right here is a Chicago screw. Now, it's not just screwing into a standoff. So, kind of a neat thing. Pretty much 3 parts. Fits in, and these are so well machined, so well finished. It really is quite amazing how well the machining was done on these. It's something that you're really going to have to pick up and handle in a store. It's not something that can be appreciated like in a video. It's like, I feel like lower cost production knives sell better because you can see them in a video and you pretty much know what to expect. But with a knife like this, you really have no idea the extra work that goes into it. And that's not like a knock on people that buy like cheaper knives, but I did it for years. Like, it's hard to equate spending, these new were $425. This one may have been, I don't know, maybe they were less. But for G10 titanium and S35 VN, to spend $450 on a knife, I mean, Spyderco offers S90V carbon fiber and titanium for $200. So it's sort of something you really have to know what you're getting for it to be worth it, I think. And one way that you can really experience the extra fortitude or the higher build quality of a knife is to go out and use it. Really, I mean, it's funny to say this, but this knife specifically, I was so shocked when I got it because I took it out of the box. I was like, "That's a pretty good looking knife," and it went straight in my pocket. And I started using it. Like, it was, I think, my first mid-tech, if you will. I had at that time the SOCOM and the Strider. I knew I'd get around to using the Strider. SOCOM I bought used, but this knife I just immediately wanted to wail on, and I did just that without hesitation too, and it held up very well. It's a testament to why these knives have been around so long. So yeah, you can see you have 3 body screws, 1 pivot. Nice thing about the pivot is you can use literally anything that is flat and roughly that size. I wouldn't use a screwdriver this size, use something a little wider, but you can use, I think, a penny, a quarter's too wide, a dime for sure works, but yeah, you can use a coin, flathead, doesn't matter. Good stuff, and I like that it can be adjusted pretty easily, and this is kind of a whatever, but these are Phillips head screws, these pocket clip screws, so you can take the clip off at any time. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but normally I take the clip off and I change it, and after that I don't touch it. So not a huge deal on the clip, but I have to say I love this blade shape. Super nice curvature, a nice little bit of flat spot right there. Beefy reinforced tip, very consistent, and just makes sense with the design. I would like the knife to be ground a little bit thinner. I understand why they didn't. This is about as thick of a grind as I will go on a folding knife. I mean, if I remember correctly, the K-Bar BK9 was about this thickness behind the edge. It's an outdoor camping knife or survival knife, whichever. But it's excessively thick. I understand why they do it. It's just a little overkill for me. I love the knife, but it's absolutely ridiculous. And then don't even get me started on this one. The fatty is this guy's lucky he's still around. But no, I'm just kidding. I really do love this blade shape, and it actually cuts surprisingly well. Steve, Super Steel Steve, put a great edge on this. But yeah, that's who I got it from. I don't know if I mentioned that in this video. But moving on. Let's talk about ergos. Jimping is painful. Not a big fan of the jimping at all. It hurts. It really does. There's a lot of it. It's very sharp. It doesn't even need to be there in the first place. And then people will argue, oh, well, the knife was meant to be used with gloves on. Oh? Huh. Oh! Well, why didn't I think of that? So I put some gloves on, and, I'm at work doing whatever. I'm holding the knife. Perfect. What a great grip. This knife is so comfortable. I go to choke up, and I cut through my glove because this choil is too small for a glove. So a little bit of a discrepancy there. It's not, again, the end of the world, but I mean, the jimping is just so bad, and I don't ever recall jimping being necessary in a knife. If you look at a knife like the Anthem, I've used this knife plenty hard since getting it. No jimping anywhere on the knife. Not at all. Maybe I'm missing it. Oh, is this jimping? Fuck. Well, whatever. And I wouldn't mind if it was jimping like on this TR4. It's more of indexing. So it lets you know where you are on the handle. But, I mean, this jimping is just excessive, absurd, and unnecessary, in my opinion. Yeah, so sometimes if you're really cutting into something hard or gripping the knife with a lot of force, you will find that this flipper is somewhat painful. It left a mark right there on my hand, so just be cautious of that. Really, it's something that fits, I think, everybody's EDC. I'm just going to say it. I don't think that there's anybody that couldn't EDC this knife. The only thing I could think of would be a legal issue or preference, but they make a 3-inch version. So really the big thing I've been saving until the end is you can get these for about $300 or less. So I mean, for me it's pretty much a no-brainer. That's why I've been buying so many. I've been buying them like they're going out of style, which, you know, they're not, but they kind of are, with the Gen 5 and Gen 6 being out. So, you know, I've just been trying to track down. I think I might get like maybe 2 more Hinderers and then call it quits. I really like the 3.5 skinny, which is the Gen 6, so expect a video on the Gen 6 Hinderer. And I also want one of the slip joints, believe it or not. I think those are super cool. I'd love to check one out. Build quality on them has to be amazing. And the Eclipse too, that 3.0 Eclipse, I think that's what it's called. But yeah, I think it's just a fantastic knife, and especially nowadays, it's a discontinued version of the knife. You can find them for $300 or less. This knife used to be $450 or whatever it was. I mean, you really can't go wrong. So with all that stuff being said, I'm just going to end the video here. I think this is a knife that most everybody should check out. And those of you guys who are spending all your money on Para 3 Sprints, the secondary market for XM-18s gives you no excuse to not check one of these out. $250 on a good day, $300 on a bad. I'll take $300 even. I spent $295 on this, $300 on that. And at one point in Hinderer's history, you were paying $600 to $1,000 on the secondary. So I'll take what I can get. Definitely a reason why this knife has been around for as long as it has. It's a timeless design, and good designs really never go out of style. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. God bless.